This is Ken Rockwell with KenRockwell.com and KenRockwell.tv. Today we're going to take a look at the Fujifilm 50 to 230mm XC lens for their X series of APS-C cameras. This is an inexpensive lens and it has fantastic optics. It also weighs next to nothing, which makes it a magnificent lens to take for travel or anything you might want to do because the optics never leave anything wanting. There's no reason to have to carry a faster lens unless you want to have to go to the expense and weight of carrying a faster lens. This lens is fantastic for travel or any possible use because its optics are first rate. The only reason to pay more or carry more with a faster lens is if you just happen to like the feel of a metal lens, if you want to have to carry more weight, or if you have a real need for faster speed, which most people don't. Let's cut straight to some sample images, which hopefully you're watching this in true 4K, which on the Apple ecosystem you have to do by using the Chrome browser on Macintosh and being sure to have a 4K television hooked up to the HDMI output or through your Thunderbolt connection to your monitor. And if you do, these photographs are going to look fantastic. These are shot on Fujifilm's inexpensive XE3. Here's a shot at f11 at 100mm with this lens. It's a 10-second exposure, and it looks fantastic. Here's another shot at the park at sundown for a concert in the park. This lens is super sharp, and most of this stuff isn't even in focus here. This is shot at 135mm at f6 handheld. Here's a shot on the camera at ISO 51000, so the camera is very soft. But don't tell me that, oh, I need a faster lens. Heaven forbid. If you want a faster lens, don't let me stop you. This is shot at f5.6 at 107mm handheld of a rock concert at night. Ditto. Here's a guy playing. It's at 150mm, wide open. It looks just great. The lens, of course, is much sharper than this because the camera had to be set to ISO 51000, which makes it significantly softer. Here's a car. Standing back at 90mm at f9, looks just great. It's super sharp. There's nothing to be wanted in this lens in terms of sharpness or optical performance. Here's another shot. Scrolling down from the top, you'll see it's super sharp. I sure hope you're watching this on 4K so you can enjoy all this lens has to offer. This lens is all plastic. It can be zoomed with one fingertip, well, okay, two fingertips like this. It's as best as it gets. It's relatively slow because it's only f4.5 to 6.7, but that's how it can be so lightweight and give such great optical performance in such a small and light package. I've never had any problem licensing images to major clients for thousands of dollars with these little plastic lenses, so if you can't, it's not the lens. It has excellent sharpness. It has no visible distortion. It has great macrobility. It has stabilization. It includes the hood, even though it's a very inexpensive lens, and it takes great, sharp pictures. No, there's no aperture ring, so you have to control that on your camera. There's no case. Throw it in a sock, or honestly, I shoot this lens with the 15 to 45. The other lens goes in my pocket. It's easy. There's no switch to turn off stabilization. You have to do that in the camera. But it also is no high price, no weight, no problems. You get nothing but clean, sharp, beautiful pictures. When we get down to specifics, the autofocus is not as fast as it could be. Too bad. It's the least expensive lens. It's lightweight. Its focus is fast enough for anything I've needed to do, but it's not instantaneous like some DSLR lenses now. Manual focus usually is dynamic, meaning that as you turn the ring faster, it manually focuses faster. So you can do this to get about to where you need to go, and then very slowly bring it around and get super precise focus. Manual focus is entirely electronic. There's no mechanical connection to this ring and anything else. There's very little focus breathing. As you focus, the image stays the same size, which is great for movies. If we take a look at the bokeh is pretty good, but because it's a slow lens, it never really gets that far out of focus. To get the most out of focus, zoom all the way to 230mm, shoot wide open f6.7, and this is the result you can get. Distortion, at least a shot on my XE3, is completely invisible. The only measurable distortion I got was 0.5% at 100mm. I wouldn't worry about that. Ergonomically, it's fantastic. It's got a big rubberized zoom ring, which I can use one strong finger or two smaller fingers. The focus ring, it's a marvelous lens to love. Fall off is completely invisible on my XE3. There is no option to use the lens modulation optimizer on either my XE3 or my XT30. I suspect that this lens simply doesn't use that. For filters, it's easy time for filters. I can stack 6 regular 58mm screw-in filters, and I get no vignetting. I could probably stack more, but I got tired of looking for more. There are nearly no flare or ghosts. I'm going to show that in my Sunstar samples a little bit further on here. There's no color fringes with this lens. I love it. Macro performance gets super close and super sharp. Here's a shot. This is the full frame APS-C shot at 230 millimeters, wide open at f6.7. And as I zoom in, it is still super sharp. This lens is great for that it can get so close and be so sharp. The minimum aperture is always f22 regardless of the focal length. Mechanically, it's all 100% plastic. It's made in China. It's low cost. It is a plastic mount. You'll notice there's a relatively large rear element, so they didn't spare on the optics. But if you're going to try to step on it, yeah, you might have to buy another one. But take care of your cameras as I do. I have plastic lenses that have lasted me 10 or 20 years, and they still work exactly the way they did when I got them. So I'm not going to worry about that. Sharpness, as I've shown you, it's outstanding. What people do wrong is they shoot it at small apertures, like f11 or smaller, which dulls the image due to diffraction. Don't shoot it above ISO 200 because at higher ISOs, you get a softer image due to the camera. Make sure the stabilization is turned on and it's working well. You don't have any subject or camera motion. And don't be shooting through atmospheric shimmer. Here's a shot of a side of a mountain made wide open at 230 millimeters, which is where most lenses get soft. I sure hope you're watching this in 4K because this lens is super sharp. Spherochromatism, which are color fringes based on out-of-focus things, I don't see any at all. Optical image stabilization is not that extraordinary. I only get one stop of improvement at 50 millimeters and two stops of real-world improvement at 230 millimeters. That means I can shoot it down to about a 60th of a second at 230 millimeters. Other telephotos, I can shoot down to a 15th. That's this lens's weakest point. Maybe because it's lightweight, they didn't go as far off and as whole hog in the image stabilization system. But I never got a soft photograph, but I can't shoot it down at some of the slowest speeds I can with my $2,200 Canon 100 to 400 millimeter that I can shoot to a 15th of a second at 400. Here's some shots of the sun and some palm trees. These are shot at 50 millimeters. A little bit of a sun star here at f11. f16, just a baby soft sun star. And at f22 and only f22, I can get this much. But it's not much of a sun star. That's the problem with these rounded diaphragm blades that are in vogue today. This lens, I love this lens. This lens at a 15 to 45 millimeter, which is also plastic, weightless lens, have superb optics, go anywhere and shoot anything. This and that other lens gives me everything I need to do. So, of course, you have your choice of many lenses with the Fuji system. This is a great lens. I love this lens, and I'm sure you will too. Thanks again for watching. KenRockwell.com and KenRockwell.tv.